practice like this. We up.
Welcome to the State of Hockey podcast, featuring Justin Jelnick and Joe Hayford. Let's talk hockey.
Welcome to the State of Hockey podcast. It is day 13 of the greatest sports tournament on the face of the planet, edition for Tuesday, April 28th. I'm Justin Jelnick, along here with my co-host Joe Hayford. Joe, how are you this evening?
What's not to love about today?
It was a good day yesterday. The Wild have again advanced to the second round for the second time in 2 years and clinching their first ever playoff series win on home ice and their first ever playoff series win in fewer than 7 games. I only wish somebody had told me the Wild would win in 6 last week.
Someone did.
Who did?
That would be me.
Oh, that's right. So
call me Psychic Joe.
Yeah. Well, you had more faith in the Wild than I did. I thought if they were fortunate enough to win the series, it would go the distance. But they really turned it around after an awful Game 4 and found a way to get it done in 5 and 6.
You know, and Hitch kind of said what I said at the beginning of the series last week, or when we recorded last.
Mm-hmm.
When it really comes down to it, the Wild were the better team. At the end of the series, when both teams were playing hockey instead of nonsense, the Wild were the better team.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Other than Game 4, the Blues really didn't engage in all that much nonsense, and they were way the better team.
Yeah, I think that had less to do with the Blues being a better team and more having to do with us just not showing up to play.
I mean, I'll be honest, in Game 4, that was the Blues team I expected to see the whole way through, that could score from any line, any time, at will. I mean, that was the team that ran up the Central Division for a good hunk of the year once they got Nashville out of the way. And the Wild, to their credit, just I think overall did a good job stifling them. Held them to very low shot counts in all the games.
Yeah, the thing about Game 4, and I know we'll cover this a little bit later,
yes.
But the Wild kind of they gave up a little bit until Spurgeon scored on the
mm-hmm.
what I would consider a soft goal.
Mm-hmm.
And then once Tarasenko came back and basically answered it less than a minute later, the Wild just completely gave up.
Yeah, that was a disheartening bit there, and yeah, we'll definitely talk more about Game 4. Before we get to that, let's go ahead and review all the games, starting with Game 3, a game that I attended thanks to my buddy season ticket holder, Joe. Thanks, Joe.
No problem.
A very nervy start to this one, but the Wild really held the best of play through the whole game from start to finish, but didn't break through until Pominville finished a 2-footer from Zach Parise to go up 1-0 in the second.
Yeah, that was vintage. That they call them the Parlinville line. Just
I don't think I'd heard that one. That's a good one. So
Parlinville, yep.
I would live at Parlinville.
I think Ashley on Twitter, NHL Vonners, at NHL Vonners, she's the one that coined that, I'm pretty
mm-hmm.
sure. But, yeah, great line, vintage line, just crashing the net. Granlund on the point making things happen, and Parise and Pominville crashing the net from either side. And
just Parise's vision to find Pominville so open there. I mean, the attention Parise draws is one thing on that play, but the fact that he can get the puck out of that situation when he's about to be swarmed and find the wide open guy, that was just so beautiful.
Yeah, and it's situations like that I really worry about Parise, because he really thinks about making the play, and he doesn't think about taking the hit, and that's what makes him so great. But
yeah,
playing against the Blues and the way the Blues played us in the first few games, I was a little worried about Parise's health and welfare.
Yeah, take it easy, Parise. You have 20 years left on your deal, so please sit tight. But then Parise gets one of his own about 2 minutes later, same line, and yeah, he just found a shot and dug it out of traffic and got it to the corner of the goal.
Yep, again, same thing. Just crashing that net hard, working hard, and just not caring, just self-sacrificing, team over everything else, and What's not to love about Zach Parise? We say it every week.
And then in the third, Niederreiter gets the empty netter after Hitchcock pulled his goaltender rather early. I mean, not early, but rather there's still 2 minutes left when Nino buried what would be the dagger.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know how many empty netters Nino's had this year. I know he completed a hat trick earlier this year with an empty netter.
Yes.
He's been definitely the beneficiary of a couple of goalie pulls.
Yeah, and I don't mind that those count because that means the coach likes to trust you in the end game. Although the way coaches play the Wild, Yo's got to trust more players in the end game there against the empty net, so they got to get a line change or two in there when they're pulling goalies with 3 minutes to play or whatever.
Yeah, and hey, we could be where it was last year, and we only got one empty netter the whole series.
So, but the most amazing thing about that game is the Wild surrender only 17 shots against Dubnyk. He gets them all, and they win that game 3-0 to go up 2-1.
Yeah, Dubnyk with another spectacular performance.
And I thought Allen was really good in that game too. It's hard to pin either goal on him, other than maybe he overcommits Parise on the first one. But he gets 19 of 21 in 59 minutes in that game.
I don't think there's such a thing as overcommitting to Parise. Parise, as we saw, can snipe it from just about anywhere.
That's true. But I guess the only overcommit is that you leave yourself vulnerable if he can make that cross pass.
Yeah, and if anyone can do it, it'd be Parise. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So, Game 4, they did show up. Should we show up?
This is a tough one. It needs to be talked about because we can't let it go unmentioned because if it happens again.
Before we go on, I should mention Wild Extra. Their blog did the exact same gag, and I thought it was hilarious. So that they didn't want to cover Game 4, but there are certainly things to talk about. But St. Louis got 3 goals in the first 10:06 from Reeves, Tarasenko, and Backus. And then Spurgeon got a power play goal to open the second to give a little hope, but 2 minutes later, Stastny comes up with a dagger, and then St. Louis gets 2 more on the second, and they go on to win this one 6-1. Just an awful game.
Oh yeah, it was definitely awful. I spent much of the third period wandering the concourse.
That's right. This is a game you had the misfortune of attending.
Yeah.
At least it didn't get any worse during the third, but that doesn't matter much. But this reminded me a lot of, and probably you as well, the last regular season game against Winnipeg when the team just seemed to quit.
Yeah, and that's still going to worry me, especially going into Chicago. Chicago is the most evenly matched team I think we'll see in the playoffs, advance or not. If we take a game off against them, that could mean the whole series.
We'll get into our Chicago preview toward the end of the show, but yeah, I mean, this propensity is what freaks Wild fans out. And I was totally sky was falling on Twitter. I didn't think they would win another game after this. I thought St. Louis had Minnesota figured out. I thought this was the St. Louis team we were going to see in every game, and I thought, Hitch had them dialed in and it was going to be over. So, but that was apparently not to be.
See, and I took the opposite from that. I thought that it was less about the Blues being good and that I thought that the Wild just took the game off, and that was my bigger concern, because if the Blues just played us hard, that's playoffs. That's what it is. It's hard hockey. Most games go 6 or 7. Most series go 6 or 7 games. But the fact that the Wild just took that game off, with the exception of about 2 minutes in the second on the power play, and then until Stastny daggered us.
Yeah.
That was my bigger concern.
And I know there's a lot of discussion about this, too. I did not think Dubnyk had a good game. I think it was clear after the fourth goal he should have been pulled. I would have even entertained arguments he could have been pulled after the third goal. But
without a doubt, he should have been pulled after he got hurt.
Yes, that's also true. He caught one in his deal.
Yeah.
That's no fun.
No,
I was never an actual goalie.
Yeah, I played goalie for a little bit, but...
Oh, you did? Oh, no.
That's definitely not fun, but I mean, we definitely should have put him back, or put him on the bench. Kemper came out and had a pretty solid performance, so a nice shout-out to him.
Yep, and he went 9 of 9 on that one in 23 minutes, so...
That's a game where the defense really let him down, and I don't think he had as bad a game as people say he did.
No, but I don't know, though. I mean...
One of those goals was on him. That's the only... Looking back at it...
I thought the Stastny goal was pretty soft, too, to be honest. There wasn't much on it, and it just got over his leg.
Well, I think he was expecting more of a back check and more of a wobbly puck, and it just seemed to take a bad angle on him.
Yeah.
That's actually the goal that I'm talking about. That's the one that I think is on him, but the rest of them... The redirection by Tarasenko...
Yeah.
The snipe from the corner by Tarasenko. Those are all goals that, I mean, your defense has got to help you out. Brodin would just look like a puppy lost in the woods.
Yeah, that's true. And the whole line, like you said, let him down, and the forwards even let him down too. But I think Dubnyk. I don't think it's fair to completely shield Dubnyk. I don't think that's what you're trying to do.
No, it's not. It's not.
I know some people are, but...
Well, and I said my argument was more for after that game. Like, don't get down on Dubnyk yet, because it wasn't all him.
Yeah.
And he showed that. I mean,
that was my concern. I mean, that leaving him in for 2 more goals, I was worried might have done some damage, but obviously that turned out not to be the case. So
he doesn't seem like a flappable guy to me.
Yeah. So, so Dubnyk not pretty at all. 11 saves on 17 shots faced in that game. And again, 6-1, the Blues go back to St. Louis up 2-2, or tied 2-2, and then a huge Game 5 on Friday night. Tarasenko, who I really love a lot, and I think he's gonna be a huge star. You know, I honestly, I just kind of developed a lot of respect for him in this series. He opened the scoring on power play before the Wild got shot in this game, and it was not a good start for the Wild in this game at all.
No, it wasn't a good start, but for the first time in this series, the Wild managed to pull out a victory after going down 1-0.
Scandella got a very fortunate bounce on his goal on the first shot of the game at 11:06.
We trade
in the first. He caught Allen in the wrist or on the cheater or what have you, and it fell in. I mean, those happen, but that might have been the goal that undid Allen, who I thought was the better goaltender to this point.
Yeah, and that was the demise of Allen right there. Everything after that, I think, was soft. I can't think of a goal that wasn't soft after that.
Well, I don't know if they all were, but I mean, you definitely could point to the first one on Sunday, which we'll get to, and I thought the other goals on Friday were mostly solid, but you know, once it gets in your head, you start to second guess.
Yep. Yeah.
I thought Nino's goal was great, actually. So he scored the second to put him up. That was a darn good play by Chris Stewart too to set him up. Yeah,
and Stewart was having that was kind of his redeeming play there. He was having just an awful series, and he made a very Granlund-like play. If you think back to last playoff series, he just kind of peeling it off the wall and getting it out there.
Yeah, I've got a take on what's been going on with that line too when we get to Stars in a little bit, but yeah, that was a great goal for Nino, and then Koivu puts the dagger. The first unit scores a power play goal. I've been very critical of the first unit on Twitter, if anybody's been following that, but Koivu buried a good one from ZP and Suter. And
went off with Petrangelo's foot?
Yeah, might have been. I actually don't remember, but it was a great effort on the power play. It just seemed to me that in general the Wild have been getting a lot more out of their second unit than the first unit on the power play.
Yeah, and this is the game where I really saw our power play start to take off. And I another thing that I had called on this podcast before the playoffs started was our power play was going to take off.
And I was super down on them 2 weeks ago when we were previewing this series. But
and I said, and look at that, 5 power play goals.
They really came through.
5 power play goals in 6 games. That's not bad by any standard.
No, that's really good. So I think out of 23 or 24 chances overall.
And they were moving the defense around. They were skating, moving their feet. They were up and down the zone.
It's exactly what they didn't do all year was force teams to move their penalty killers. And the keys to that, like I've said many times, are you have to be willing to move the puck, and you have to be willing to move when you don't have the puck. Try to make things happen.
Right, and even when you're moving the puck, you have to move your feet as well.
Right.
And that was a big concern all year, obviously, and it obviously has picked up.
Yeah. So I'm glad they did that. And I think maybe the playoff pressure just makes them a little more willing to take shots and not wait for the 99%ers. Just wait for, take the halfway decent ones just to see what you get.
Yeah, and I'm going to go and credit your guy Dumba on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Dumba's not afraid to take a shot from anywhere.
No. Yes, and I think that's going to be key, and I think it's part of what's kept him up here, despite he's still learning how to make smarter decisions in the back end. So
yeah, and Dumba's come along so well. I mean, even in these playoffs, what a experience for him as a young guy to come in this big pressure situation, and he's still performing very highly.
Yes, I absolutely agree. He's having a great first playoff, and I'll be looking forward to this for years to come. So, and then to put a coda on this game, Coyle gets one at the end of the third, or at 14:50 of the third, to make it 4-1 for Minnesota. That ends up being the final. Let's see what we got here. Dubnyk, 36 saves of 37. One goal allowed. I'll be honest, even though this was lopsided for Minnesota, I thought St. Louis was probably the better team for most of the game. They just didn't get the bounces, and Dubnyk pretty much stole this one for Minnesota.
Well, and that's the frustrating thing for other teams against the Wild, and this is why I called the series the way I did at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can have zone time, spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes of zone time in a period, and look up and you've got 3-4 shots on goal, because we're so good at attacking the puck. We don't go for the player. We go at the puck as a defensive unit, and that's just so frustrating as a team, because you look up and you don't have anything to show for it. Right. All that zone time, all that pressure, and you have 5, 6, 7, 8 shots when you spent 15 minutes in the offensive zone.
So, but yeah. No, I agree, and thankfully Dubnyk did have his best game. If he's average in this game, it might be a different story. But that was the game that put Minnesota in the situation for Game 6 on Sunday, and this one got started off with a bang.
Yeah, Parise shorthanded coming down the wing.
That was it. And it wasn't like he was that clear either. I mean, he carried the puck into the corner and took a tough angle shot around a couple opponents, and he found the corner he had to. It's probably one Allen should have had covered, but it found a way in, and that set the tone for sure.
That just goes to show you shoot the puck at the net, good things can happen. Exactly.
I mean, Parise isn't among the players that are shy about that for sure.
No, definitely not. But
so and it's going to kill me to say this, but Matt Cook definitely made the play that got Parise loose there to get the puck out of the zone. On a great attempt, and he was pretty decent on the penalty kill, and I thought he had a pretty good game in Game 6, despite how much criticism I had for dropping Bergenheim for him.
Well, here's the thing about Matt Cook. People remember his shenanigans, and they forget that Matt Cook is a good hockey player.
He at least was once, so I don't think he's anywhere near his peak.
At the beginning of the year, he had led our team in shorthanded shot attempts.
Yeah. And he was actually scoring goals in his first, couple months last year, and then kind of disappeared.
Yeah, and this year was the same thing. He got hurt this year, but
yeah, he missed a third of the year, so that's a little different to judge.
He's for what we have him for. I think he's a little overpaid for what he does for us, but I like the addition of Matt Cook a couple years ago.
And I'm definitely going to be bringing the topic of Matt Cook up when we do our show after the season's over about how the summer's going to play out, because I'm kind of in early on. I think he's expendable in a trade, but he does have a no-move clause, kind of like Heatley's, where he can blackball like 10 teams. So I don't, or whatever it is. I don't know if the details are actually known, but yeah, the guy made a good play, and I want to trade him, right?
Yeah, of course you do.
So, all right, well, back to Game 6 before we get into our show for the summer. So Fontaine made a great goal early in the second to put him up 2-0. And that,
Yeah, that was just a beautiful goal by Fonzie. Just determination, and again, shoot the puck at the net and good things happen. He had a good screen in front of him, and he just decided to let it fly and back of the net.
I think Fontaine's had a good series. I thought he had a lot of good moments in Game 5, just on board play and getting the puck moving. And I'm glad he got rewarded with what would hold up as the game winner, but we didn't know that then, obviously. But, yeah, I really like what Fontaine did on that goal, and I thought he had a great game.
Yeah, he had a great series, and there was a point in time here, actually in Game 4, that I was a little upset that Hala wasn't put back into the lineup.
Yeah.
Just for the sheer point of Hala's defensive ability on a player like Tarasenko.
So, at the end of the second, Oshie had to make it interesting on a weird goal that bounced off of everybody before it found the net with 4 seconds left. But
1.6 seconds, actually.
Yeah. On my box score, they scored it as 1956, so I don't know.
Oh, the clock might have ran down.
They might have ran it back up or something. But, yeah, so they got Oshie. That was, St. Louis worked hard, and I thought they owned the second period in Sunday's game, and I think Minnesota was lucky to escape with 1 goal, even though the 1 goal was kind of a lucky bounce.
Yeah, I got to say, I was a little worried. We were at Joe Sensor's yesterday, and I was a little worried going into the third with having given up that goal with such little time left. I thought it was a momentum swing, and I was really worried about how the team would respond. And
that worry lasted about a minute and a second into the third.
Yep.
Prezi Potts' second of the game. Again, that top line really came through in this whole series.
Yeah, just like last season, coming through when it's really necessary, making things happen, determination towards that net. Like, if you watch that line, they swarm that net, and they'll have 2 or 3 players on them, and they'll still manage to find a spot for the puck to go.
Indeed.
If only every one of our lines could have that type of work ethic.
I agree, but at least they set the example, and they were getting through. And I really think all the forwards played well in Game 5 onward, even though I would say that they were still fortunate to escape Game 5 with a win. But it all worked out well, and then Nino adds the empty netter again this week to bring us to another 4-1 final. And then bedlam ensues at the Xcel Energy Center, the first series ever won on home ice. Wild over the Blues 4-2.
Yeah, you have no idea how much I regret giving my tickets away or selling my tickets for that game.
Yeah. A buddy of mine at work did end up going, and he just said it was fabulous. And because he's also a partial season ticket holder, and yeah, it was. It looked like it was a lot of fun. I was glad to just watch it on TV personally. It would have been fun to be there, but it was great. Great no matter where you were, and just definitely the best moment in this franchise's history, probably to date. I don't know. That'd be a tough debate. That Nino goal last year was pretty big too.
Yeah, I think that was bigger, honestly. I don't.
St.
I
Louis
have never been personally more in one moment excited than the Nino Niederreiter game winner.
Yeah, I do remember the Brunette winner was a big deal, but I know that was 12 years ago.
Well, I watched that as well.
Yeah,
but I think for me, the call of Nino Niederreiter's game winner by Anthony Lepanto literally gave me goosebumps.
I can find versions on YouTube with all the calls, the TSN one and the NBCSN, and they were all, I think, really good. But yeah, Lepanto was definitely quite the deal. So, but another moment that belongs to that conversation on Sunday for sure. So, congratulations to our Minnesota Wild. They advanced to play Chicago, who closed out Nashville in a weird game on Saturday.
Yeah, yet another game where Nashville just couldn't close it out.
Mm-hmm. And we'll get into our preview a little later, but definitely I like the Wild's chances against Chicago probably more than St. Louis.
I'm glad you think so. I think this is going to be a little bit tougher series for us.
Well, We'll talk about that. What other thoughts do we have on St. Louis? I mean, it sounds like everybody's expecting Hitchcock to be out as a result of this.
Yeah, Hitchcock is probably going to go, and I guess I wouldn't be shocked or upset if I were a Blues fan about that.
Yeah. I don't know, because I mean, the only problem I'm having with this mentally is that if St. Louis wins this series, this conversation isn't happening, and if St. Louis gets just about anybody else in the first round, I think they win.
Yeah, I mean, Hitchcock kind of made a fool of himself in the media throughout this.
I thought it was kind of funny, but maybe looking back, it's the mark of a guy that knows it's coming to an end.
Yeah, I think he was out there trying to. He basically threw all his cards on the table and said, "Here, come and get them." Yeah.
So, but I mean, there's going to be plenty of good jobs open for him too. I'm sure if he wants another job, he won't have trouble getting hired. And you know, 4 years is a long time for a head coach at one place, and if you're not succeeding, that might just, that might just be it. Although I know there's probably 20 teams that would love to have St. Louis's results in the last 4 years.
Yeah, I'm guessing he's probably going to go Detroit.
That may be. Do you think Babcock's leaving?
Yeah, I think Babcock is going
Everybody
to go
does.
to Edmonton.
Oh, that would. Why? Oh boy, yeah. I just can't imagine why you'd want to go to Edmonton. But they are cleaning house up there.
They are, and they're doing a very good job of it.
They changed GMs, so maybe there'll be some hope for developing talent up there, despite the fact they win all the lotteries and those players work out okay, but they've done nothing else to bolster that team.
Got to invest some money in your defense.
Yes, they do, and they've pretty much refused to do that since the 05 lockout. So
I think that's going to change here, and especially if Babcock ends up being the coach, that'll definitely change because we know Babcock, and he's a very defensive-minded coach.
So we'll see. What else? You got any other pressing thoughts on the first round series so far?
No, I just want to, despite the 6 goals given up by Dubnyk in Game 4, Dubnyk ended the series with a .922 save percentage.
Yes, he did.
Still an excellent series by Dubnyk.
Yep, he was pretty solid, and I'm not to spoil it too much. We'll have more on him when we hit 3 stars. And actually, first let's talk about Steve Ott. I know you've got something to say that's probably going to surprise me.
Yeah, Steve Ott gets a lot of scrutiny by Wild fans, and one thing I got to say, and you would probably be the exception to this, but what if he was on our team? How much would you hate him at that point? You obviously are the exception because
I'm the exception, but I don't see what he brings, and I don't think he helps St. Louis one bit in this series.
I agree. I would disagree 100% with you because I think Steve Ott...
This is what I want to hear.
Steve Ott and the mental games that he played and what he laid out for the Wild to expect, I think are one of the big reasons why the Wild were so defunct in Game 4. They were expecting the Wild to come out and hit. They were expecting the Blues to come out and hit.
Okay.
They were expecting the Blues to come out and be in little scrums after the whistle. And the Blues came out and played hockey. Steve Ott set that tone. Steve Ott did what he's paid to do. He instigated, he got in our heads, and he did what he was paid to do. He won the Blues that game mentally.
Okay, this is actually not as insane as I thought it was going to be. So, but I kind of see where you're coming from there, but I don't know if the head games really had that much to do with it. I mean, I will say it was absolutely unexpected that they did come out and play strong in Game 4, and Game 5 after that. I mean, Steve Ott kind of went away, but at the same time, you see it really didn't pay off for the Wild for the Blues other than in Game 4. I mean, is throwing away 2 games and getting extra misconducts and gouging eyes really worth it?
Gouging eyes? What did I miss?
That's what happened at the end with when he had Spurgeon wrapped up at the end of Game 3.
Oh, I didn't see him gouge eyes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I should say that's what Nick told Russo was happening. I don't know if it was clear on any video.
Yeah, I did not hear that much, and actually I was going to reference that point.
Yeah, so I think that was part of it, and
that's game
part
was
of where
over.
Hashtag Laugh at Ott came from too, which I obviously ran into the ground this week, and if that bothered any of my followers, I'm sorry, but it was just way too much fun. And I think I think the Wild, especially the picture of Dumba just laughing at his face, which is now my desktop wallpaper on my home and work computers, I think really just said that the Wild stayed disciplined. They didn't engage one bit, and if the best you could say is that it cost the Wild Game 4, I just don't buy the argument he's worth it or he brings anything worthwhile to the NHL.
Well, and here's the thing: the Blues also didn't. The Blues also didn't know that it was going to turn. Game 5 and 6 were going to be as bad as they were on their end, and that the Wild were going to adjust to the way they were playing, as well as the Wild did. Credit Mike Gill. But Ott shenanigans all started at the end of games when the Blues were just about out of it.
Right.
So you can't say that they were I don't know why the Blues would throw games because they weren't throwing games. Ott was doing what he needed to do.
That's not exactly what I meant, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
When the time was appropriate. There's was there a minute and 50 seconds left in the game when he tackled Spurgeon?
Yeah.
After he boarded Nino?
Yep. And if Ott should have got a game for that, as far as I'm concerned.
He did.
No. I mean, he should have been suspended one more.
Oh, see, I don't. Well,
he just got a 2 out of 10 for that. So.
I don't know about the eye gouging. If I would have known that, I would have agreed with you. But I could have gone either way on that. No one got hurt, and I understand that's probably why there was no game handed out, which is usually a requirement for that.
Right, which is a philosophy that I have huge problems with as far as DPS is concerned.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think I didn't. Not knowing about the eye gouging, I just thought it was Ott being Ott, rolling around with a hockey player. That's just, it is what it is. I mean, no one's going to get hurt just rolling around on the ice. Right. It's Ott doing what Ott does, getting in people's heads, getting us psyched out for the next game because that's what they expect to see the next game.
That wasn't actually that bad a thought. I mean, I know we only teased it a little on Twitter that we were going to go at it on this here, and we can save the main event for this summer. I think that
and we're gonna see something similar, not quite as spectacularly retarded as Ott, but Andrew Shaw's that type of player as well.
Yes, he is. So, and I'm not looking forward to him. And though they don't have Carcillo anymore, do they?
Carcillo? No, I don't believe so. I think he got traded to
he's up
Philadelphia.
Yeah, Well, I don't know.
One of those two. Yeah, good idea.
So, we have Google for a reason. Daniel Carcillo. No, he's still there.
Oh, he is. Well, here we go.
We're thinking of somebody else who got traded away. Oh, well.
I thought he was in the Vermette trade.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. And, so... Well, that was a good thought on Odd. I just think if your best argument is he cost the Wild Game 4... And I certainly don't think you can say that was 100% the reason the Wild were bad.
No, I mean, it's just Ott being Ott. Now, if we were saying... Because Ott doesn't have a whole lot of hockey skills. Right. Now, let's go back to last year with Landeskog. Landeskog was an idiot because he has talent.
Yes. But he at least brings, some entertainment value to what hockey's supposed to be. But he does have that other side, too. Right,
but I mean, Ott was doing what he's paid to do, just like Andrew Shaw has a little more hockey talent. I'm just going to say,
it wasn't only Wild fans that wanted in on hashtag Laugh at Ott. I mean, there were some St. Louis people that legit, and there was a couple that were trolling after Game 6 or after Game 4, and the point isn't that Ott was the reason they won the game, so our hashtag's stupid. The point was we wanted to embarrass a player that brings nothing of value to the NHL's what the beautiful part of what hockey should be.
Right. I think Ott is definitely a serviceable player, and he does serve a purpose. He does get too much ice time. Other than the fact that he does win a crap load of face-offs.
Well, yeah, that'll keep a lot of players going in the NHL. I know that's true. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, and I told somebody this, is that even if the Blues go 82-0, it doesn't make Ott a good person or somebody I want to see in the NHL.
Yeah, and I agree with that point. But if there's one player in the league, then there has to be at least 30 others.
Yeah.
Every team needs an Ott, if one team has one.
Yeah, I don't agree with that, but I know that our team employs at least one that was won once. So, and I mean, to not to beat this point down, but honestly, you can get that physical nature. I mean, like Chris Stewart, he's not shy to hit. And you can still get heavy hits, which I think are definitely part of the game, without that filthy edge of trying to take heads and try and knock people out of games.
Now, say it was St. Louis and an undisciplined team, like say St. Louis played Nashville in the first round, which could have happened if Chicago had not fallen apart at the end of the year.
Yeah,
Nashville is a very undisciplined team. Ott would have been a much bigger factor and had a much bigger role with his team if they had played an undisciplined team who actually let him get under their skin.
Yeah.
You got to think of it from that. I mean, just because the Wild played them, and the Wild are a much more disciplined team, and they stick to their guns, they play their own game, they march to the beat of their own drum, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
That is effective against teams like Nashville, who are not so disciplined, or teams like the LA Kings aren't in it anymore, but they're a pretty undisciplined team as well. So it does have its purpose.
I just wish it's a purpose that I'd like to see phased out. I think the game will be better without these types.
I agree, but hey, we wouldn't have anything to talk about for the last 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did definitely believe at this point. So, but, I'll give you credit. That was a more thought-out argument for Ott than I was expecting. So, good job. All right, let's talk 3 stars for this week. There, we do have a few to talk about. So
He scores!
You want stars?
You believe in miracles? Yes!
We got stars.
And the Wild are a Dubnyk save away from a shootout win.
State of the state of hockey's 3 stars of the week.
Save Dubnyk! And the Wild win it in the shootout!
Yes, your 3 stars for the week.
I've lost track. Whose week is it to read them?
It is my week.
All right, so we definitely had a battle over 1 and 2, but I think we were both pretty good about who landed on 3. Who was that?
We got Mr. Nino Niederreiter.
El Nino.
The Swedish sensation.
The Swiss sensation.
Swiss sensation, yes.
Yes, the proud Swiss national hockey team that I think scored 1 goal in Sochi in 3 games.
No, Nino Niederreiter scored it, didn't he?
No. He might have.
They called it for him, and it got called to someone else.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
I do love me some Nino, though. But 3-1-4 this week, even if 2 were empty netters, they count. And he is the team leader in Corsi and close situations per war-on-ice.com. Their close is a 1-goal game in the first 2 periods and tied in the third. He fired at like 62% Corsi. And I thought he had a really strong series overall, and he's definitely the guy that Yo has no problem trusting in the end game, obviously.
Yeah, he led the team in hits, and he led the team in penalty minutes over the last week. So he's definitely out there making his presence known.
And I know you're a huge fan of he and Zucker getting switched, getting Nino on your destruction line.
Reunited.
Yes.
Symphony of Destruction line.
Yes. I blanked on the name, but yeah. I thought he had a great series, and I think he's very deserving 3-star. We went back and forth on 1 and 2 a lot yesterday afternoon, but I think I won this argument.
Yeah,
barely.
Really, I don't think there's a winner or a loser here. Either one of them are deserving.
That's true. But our number 2, we landed on
Devin Dubnyk.
Yes. Got him for 1 shutout and 3 games with 1 goal or fewer allowed, and as you said earlier, 92% save overall 4 games, despite going only 11 for 17 in that game we won't talk about anymore.
Yeah, he again, just we owe him the season.
I agree, and I think in particular, Game 5 isn't won without him. I think he stole that game.
He stole that game, and he stole us Game 3 too. Let's not forget about that.
Yeah, I think it reminded me a lot of the game on February 28th at St. Louis, which I think we talked about on the podcast, where they stole that game. That was the game where they got outshot like 3-1 and got 2 goals a minute apart at St. Louis. And this game kind of reminded me of that, except the Wild got their breaks a little earlier.
Yeah, and this is what I was referencing when I started with the playoffs and us taking St. Louis in 6. When you have goaltending, that means everything. We see it every year. The last 4 Cup champions: Boston, Chicago, and LA twice. Well, Chicago, and I guess 5.
Yeah.
Who are their goaltenders?
Yeah.
Vezina candidates, Vezina winners.
Oh yeah, we didn't even mention that yet. That Dubnyk's been nominated to lose to Carey Price for the Vezina.
Yes, and as much as I love Devin Dubnyk, and I believe he so deserves the Hart Trophy, the Vezina is for the best goaltender in the NHL, and it was hands down Carey Price.
I think Dubnyk's best chance will be to hope that whoever comes out of Tampa and Detroit just lights Price up.
Yeah, and well, the thing is, the Vezina is supposed to be based on regular season.
That is true.
Right. Not that we've seen it swayed in the playoffs before, but I just think Carey Price had too good of a season, and if we were talking baseball, he'd have the Triple Crown equivalent to the goaltending.
Yeah. So, but I loved Dubnyk's game from. I thought he was outplayed in the first 4 games by Jake Allen, and but I loved his games 5 and 6 that really turned it around. And game 3, that was more just a product of he didn't see any work. But
here's the thing.
I would give Allen the benefit of the doubt.
As a former goaltender, that is the hardest game to play.
Yes,
because you get tired, you get bored, you lose your mental acuity. Those are the hardest games to stay in, and we saw that with Kemper. He would have 35, 36, 40 save shutouts against, say, Colorado, and then he'd give up 3 goals on 12 shots in a game. It's really hard to stay focused in a game where you're not seeing a lot of action.
And that stuff just doesn't seem to get to Dubnyk. Really, I mean, he was out of most of game 3 and then came up a couple times huge he had to.
And Dubnyk credits that to his ability to play the puck, and that was one of the things he said in his postgame after Game 4 was the Blues were shooting it so far into the zone and so fast that he didn't even have a chance to go out and play the puck.
Yeah.
And that kind of took him off his game.
But, I mean, Dubnyk's been a mainstay of the 3 stars. I think a deserving number 2 choice this week for sure. But our number 1 choice is probably obvious to everybody listening now. But go ahead and say it anyway, Joe.
Captain America, Zach Parise.
That's right.
My son's favorite player, and not a better role model out there for any young, aspiring hockey player.
And definitely probably my favorite player right now, too. But yeah, 3-2-5 for him this week, and no goal bigger than the shorthander to open Game 6. Yeah.
No, that was a tone setter.
It really was. I mean, the Wild just... And that was an iffy penalty, too, that Nino got called on. It was Nino, I think, right?
Yeah, it was Nino in the box on that one.
I mean, I don't mind calls like that, but, I mean, you know they're not going to call it that tight the whole game. That's the only reason it drives me nuts. But it led to a great moment, so I guess you can't complain a ton. And he added another one in that game too to help seal the deal. And I also got him down. He was the 3rd on the team in Corsi situations, but only at 47.2%. The game 4 beat everybody's Corsi down on the team this week. So, but Parise, our number 1 star this week. So. And we got some honorable mentions, too. This is one I told you before the show that you're a little surprised about, but I got Sean Bergenheim in, even though he was healthy scratch in 2 of the 4 games this week. But he was actually the leader in Corsi in all situations at 50%.
Wow.
Yeah, he's the only guy that hit 50% on the team. And, I mean, a lot of you on Twitter saw I was very critical, and I wasn't the only one about benching Bergenheim for Cook. I mean, I would have expected maybe Carter, maybe Holla, but yeah. So I think they benched a decent player in Bergenheim, but you can't deny Cook had a good game. I also have him for an honorable mention as well.
Yeah, Cook had a great game. Again, responsible for that Parise shorthander.
Mm-hmm.
One honorable mention I'd like to throw out there for the series is the NHL referees that we were assigned for this series.
For not being as bad as last year's.
What a difference a year makes.
I mean, there's still plenty to criticize, but I thought it was not even close to last year. I thought everybody was better.
And from the buzz around the NHL, from what I hear, we had the best crew in any of the series. So
if I've got a real quibble, it's that nobody knows how hybrid icing works, or I don't know how hybrid icing works.
I think it's more of it's a term. I know how hybrid icing works. Obviously, the rules are pretty clear on it.
Yeah, but the Wild seem to have had some races won that still got whistled down.
And here I might take the unpopular opinion on this. I'd rather see a whistle as opposed to a non-whistle, because people can get hurt, and that's the whole idea behind hybrid icing.
I agree, but I think if that's your belief that hybrid icing is just a small half measure, we might as well just go no touch, which is what I think they should have done in the first place.
I think if it's too close to call, or if there's even a doubt, I agree with blowing the whistle. Mm-hmm. So I guess I don't have as much issue with that as most people do, because the rule is there for a reason. It's to protect players. Right. And if there's a doubt in the official's mind, I'll never get angry at them for trying to protect a player, because that's what they're doing.
And that held my reason in check, too, because I am an advocate for no touch anyway. So, I mean, obviously these are calls that will be made regardless of who's closer.
Right, agreed.
In that situation. Let's see, got a few more honorable mentions. I got Mikael Granlund with 4 helpers, and he was 6th in Corsi overall on the team this year. And also wanted to point out my take from earlier, looking at advanced stats. The Koivu line had the worst zone starts of everybody. They were put out in defensive situations, which I'm sure is contributing to the fact they aren't hitting the score sheet as much.
Well, and that's their role. I mean, that's a big, physical, solid line.
And guys like us and guys that are listening to this, I think, understand that. But a lot of people just see, $7 million on Koivu and no goals.
Yeah, we can go back to the whole, we pay players now for what they did, 5 years ago. Koivu has earned his pay and his right and his C in years past. And
I think he's still worth the money. I think there's other teams in the league that would be smart enough to pay him.
Yeah, absolutely.
If he goes FA at some point, so
I don't think he will. I think he's going to be a member of the Wild until he retires.
I know his current deal's still got a ways yet on it.
I think it's got 2 or 3 more years.
Okay. So.
You might want to check up on that. But Koivu, the little things that Koivu does that go unnoticed by your casual fan or your quote-unquote bandwagon fan, Koivu is one of the top 5 players on this team, without a doubt.
Oh, easily.
And people give him so hard of a time for the way he plays and what he does on the power play, which, there are some things I agree where he shouldn't be in those situations. But his back check is unsurpassed. His defense in general, his penalty kill.
I'm glad we're giving Koivu some dap. I didn't have him on the officially on the honorable mention list, but he definitely deserves more praise that he gets, and I think a lot of the criticism of him is solely score sheet based, and it's not fair. Yeah,
that's definitely not fair, especially of a player that like he is. He's a grinder. He's a guy that gets things done when they need to get done, and he does the dirty work, the underappreciated work. And if we didn't have him, this would be a much different team.
Yeah, and I'll mention while we're talking about this now, Stewart had a 56% Corsi rating in close situations this week with negative zone starts, which is kind of what sprung us on this, is that line's was used in tough situations this week, and I think that was underappreciated.
Yeah, that line is, they don't show up on the score sheet, but they're a very close tie for first with the Parlinville line.
Yes. And there will be opponents that might try and sell out against that line, and then these guys are going to be the ones that are going to have to step up more on the score sheet, and they can when they're put in that situation. But I think they were given a defensive role clearly, and the Brodziak line also as well had negative zone starts.
Yeah,
so,
it wasn't about 3-4 weeks ago. I think episode 2 or 3 we were talking about them, and they were 10 points in 3 games. That line can produce.
Right. And I guess we'll just mention Vanek is by far the most sheltered player in terms of zone starts.
No, I don't think he ever starts his zone in the defensive zone.
So that's but again, yeah, I get all my advanced stats from war-on-ice.com. I don't know if anybody over there is listening to this, but if you are, thank you. Your site rocks. So I got a few more honorable mentions. I got Dumba at 56% in Corsi Close. I got Spurgeon, he was second in Corsi in all situations, and 1-1-2 for him this week. Scandella had the goal that I think changed the series, and 1-1-2 for him as well. And Justin Fontaine, I think, had a great Game 5, and then he had the big goal in Game 6 as well. That was his only point this week, but it was a huge one, and I thought he did well. And I also mentioned Matt Cook earlier for his good work on the penalty kill in Game 6. I really didn't care for his game much in any other game, but I thought he was big in Game 6, and maybe there is something for playing veterans after all.
Yeah, especially one with that much experience.
So a lot of honorable mentions. I thought everybody played really well on Game 6. I thought, other than Game 1, that was the best game, and Game 3, that was the best game they played in the series. So,
yeah, that was definitely a good game. I'm a little worried and concerned about our boy Jason Zucker. He's dealing with a thumb issue, so
he played through it on Sunday.
Yeah, he didn't see much ice time.
Yeah, and maybe it's one of those things that'll feel better if they don't start for a few days.
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to Game 4, Zucker played 15, almost 16 minutes. In Game 6, he played just over 11. So
yeah. So, but one more time, your 3 stars: Nino Niederreiter 3, Devin Dubnyk 2, Zach Parise 1. That was your 3 stars for the week. Joe, this is like becoming a crazy jam-packed show tonight.
Yeah, I think we should move on to Chicago.
Yeah, what do you think of Chicago?
To sum it up, I think that we're modeled after the Chicago Blackhawks. We're a fast team that relies on defense with our. We're a very structured, very sound team that plays fundamental hockey, and we have our superstars that make plays. We're not necessarily dirty teams in any sense. As much as I hate Chicago, I respect that team to no end, and I'm looking very forward to a great series that I think is going to come down to. I'm going to go with 7 games on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to predict Minnesota in 6 on this one. And because I'm not so sure about Chicago's goaltending, I think they were fortunate to escape with a couple games against a Nashville team that wasn't that good, especially when Shea Weber went down. And if Crawford gets it figured out, this will be a series. But if not, I think this could be over pretty quick.
Yeah, I don't see Crawford not figuring it out.
And the Hawks have blue liners that should be better than they were against Nashville. They're pretty deep there, and I don't doubt their offensive prowess for second. I mean, that Kane is dangerous, stanchions or otherwise, and they got a lot of forwards that are going to try and run and gun you.
Yeah, and one thing I'll caution you against, don't expect the Chicago Blackhawks team that played the Nashville Predators to show up and play the Wild.
Yeah, that could be too. So, but the Wild haven't lost to them since the acquisition.
The acquisition, that's what we're going to call that from now on.
Yes, and that was gut check time. They went out in the 2-2 and took one away from Chicago on the road after laying an egg against Winnipeg the night before.
I will say the even bigger stat there that I like is we've only given up 1 goal to them in 2 games.
Yeah. So and the Wild have good defense too, even though they're definitely a younger core. So, but that might be good or bad. Maybe they need that speed to keep up with the fast Chicago forwards.
Yeah, and this is going to be Dumba's time to shine. He has to step up. He has to get into the defensive zone quicker. He may not be able to step up and take the shots that he's used to taking.
But I don't think this is the Chicago team of 2 years ago, and this is definitely a better Wild team than last year's team. For sure.
It's better than last year. We all played Chicago last year. The only difference was we didn't have the goaltending Chicago had.
Yeah. Well, even at that, I mean, they lost Game 6 2-1. I mean, what more do you want out of a goalie there?
Right, I agree with that, but there were some other games before that
True.
That shouldn't have been the deciding game.
I mean, Game 2, if I remember right, last year was a little lopsided. That got into silly season in the third, and
yeah, I think that was Brizgala's first real big meltdown of the playoffs.
Yeah, but I think, and I think that the Wild have already beaten a better team. I think St. Louis was a better team than Chicago is, based on first round performances. But you never know; anything can happen in 7 games.
Yeah, NHL Network was calling the winner of the Blues Wild series to go to the Cup. So,
and obviously, before I say this, I'll disclaim it. Check your local jurisdictions to see if such activities are generally risky. But I saw a sportsbook that had the Wild at plus 130 to take down the series. That's a tasty price.
Yeah, I don't know.
So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, obviously, don't do that if it could get you in trouble. So stay out of trouble, kids.
Yes. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the series. I think it's going to be a great series. I have a few friends that are Blackhawk fans, and it's going to be good to banter back and forth. And this is a rivalry that is not. It never brings out the hatred in me, which I like. Whereas the Blues and the Avalanche, that brings out the hatred.
Yeah, people are surprised that I don't hate the Hawks as much as
they're not a dirty team. They play you even up, and they beat you.
Shaw, who you mentioned earlier, yeah, I mean they like to play and they're fun to watch.
And Shaw's not a dirty player. He's just an instigator.
Right. So, yeah, I wouldn't even put him in the odd category or whoever else.
You can say it.
Yeah. No, I was going to say McLeod. So I
thought you were going to say Cook.
No. Even Cook is a shell of himself now, but
yeah, I mean, and Cook is really taking a turn, and we'll talk about that later. But
yes, we will.
Yeah,
this show will be 2 hours, and our producer will strangle us if we open that.
We just got to shut down Bickle.
Yes, that is the weird thing is that he's been buddy against the Wild. I think he has the one that you talked about that the Wild gave up.
Yeah, I think half of his goals this year were against the Wild.
Yeah. That's just weird how that works out sometimes. Some players just know how to beat other teams.
Yeah, he just comes in feeling good. But if we shut him down, I think we have a very good chance of winning this series. And I do call the Wild winning this series. I think we are the better team this year, as you said. And I go with the Wild in 6 or in 7.
I'm the optimistic one this time.
I don't think Quenneville and company are going to make it easy on us.
My fundamental belief was the 2 teams in the Wild's Blues series were better than the 2 teams in the Chicago-Nashville series. That's what it comes down to. I was going to put whoever got out of that one to get out of the division. So,
yeah, but this team has not won a second-round playoff series, and the Blackhawks have made it all the way. So,
yes. Well, at least in recent history, though, the Wild did in 2003.
Right, this team.
They may be on a collision course with the same opponent, so...
Yes, and that's not... I honestly, and we can get into that a little bit later too, but I don't think Anaheim's going to make it out.
You think Calgary's got a shot?
I do. I think more because Anaheim's had such a big layover, and Anaheim traditionally kind of falls apart. This particular Anaheim team falls apart in the second round of the playoffs. Big time falls apart.
They're very well rested, which is going to be the double-edged sword because not only did they play 4 games, they had a really light last couple weeks of the season.
Yeah, they kind of took off those games too.
But that'll be interesting. I was definitely pulling for Calgary. We'll do my humble break bracket update right now. So of the 6 series that have ended, I have predicted all of them correctly. And if I had not given the Jets credit for winning 1 game against Anaheim, I have all the series lengths correct so far.
All right.
So I'm 5 of 6. I'm in very good shape in the $11.40 win Justin Jelnick's money. No, you didn't. You called the Wild in 7, didn't you? Oh, you're right. That happened yesterday. You're right. Okay, so 4 out of 6 I've got the lengths right. Yeah, I was 4 out of 5 after Saturday is what happened. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of, and then or 3 out of 4 I got Montreal on Sunday. Yeah, so 4 out of 6 I've got right, which is I think insanely
So one thing looking ahead to the Chicago series, the speculation is Game 1 is going to be on Friday. It's not official by the NHL yet. We'll keep you updated on Twitter.
Yes, the word we got is that if the first round ends on Monday, they'll have a schedule. I also kind of wonder if they're not waiting out the Bulls and Bucks tonight, the NBA, to see if the United Center would be open on Saturday to do a Thursday-Saturday if the Bulls close out the Bucks.
I mean, yeah, I could see that. I just don't. I don't know that you want to do that if you're the NHL. I think you want this to draw this out as long as possible, which they usually do every year.
Yeah,
I would say it'd be more likely we start on Saturday in Game 1 than
that
it
could
would
be too.
To do a Thursday-Saturday start. The NHL is notorious for drawing this thing out. So.
That's true, and Chicago's would have been idle since Saturday and the Wild since Sunday, so it'd be a full week if they don't start till Saturday for them. But that might be what happens. So
my guess is Friday.
Yeah, I think zero chance it starts before Thursday, or they would have said something by now.
No, because Game 7 was slotted for Wednesday night.
Yes,
so
yeah, it's kind of a sad moment yet after Sunday's games. I looked on the schedule, and there's only 3 games on it now. The 2 remaining for potentially 2 for Detroit and Tampa, and then
go Detroit.
Game 7. Yeah, that's one series I'm slated to probably get wrong unless Tampa gets the last 2. And then I've got Washington left as well. But, so it'll be interesting down the stretch, but I'm off to a great start, so I think I'm going to get to keep my $11.40. But if I don't, I'll gladly give it to whoever wins. So
there you go.
So I'm very, very glad to do that, but I'm just thrilled with myself. Can't you tell?
Of course. Why wouldn't you be?
Yeah, but yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off on Calgary. So you think Anaheim's setting themselves up for a little fall here? Yeah,
and I think it's just a team that traditionally, like the Blues in the first round, they just don't perform well in the second round of the playoffs.
Anaheim plays with fire. I mean, they didn't have a huge goal differential. They win a lot of close games. They had to come back in 3 of their games against the Jets.
And that's the thing. I mean, I don't think the Jets were even playoff worthy. I think the Kings were more deserving. The Jets, I think, just had the easier, so to speak, schedule.
No, I don't buy that at all. LA's in a division with Arizona and Edmonton.
Yeah.
They should have run points up like crazy. Winnipeg plays in the toughest division in the NHL by far.
Yeah, but here's the thing. At the end of the season, when it counted, when it came down to it, LA had a tougher schedule than Winnipeg did.
They did, but they have 82 games to sort that out, and they had the benefit of playing 5 games against, at least against Arizona and Edmonton. And
I guess I'm
bottom feeders in the Central was pretty much Colorado and Dallas, and they even had decent finishes.
Yeah, 90 points for Colorado. So
so.
I guess I'm going to retract my own preposterous statement there.
There you go.
The Winnipeg Jets they were by far the least likely to succeed in the playoffs.
Oh, I can give you that for sure. And I don't know if LA would have had a better fate if they had got in.
And they're a deep team, and they're going to be good soon, but they need a goaltender. And it showed. They couldn't close down games just like Nashville couldn't. And I think that was more about Shea Weber being gone than anything else. But,
absolutely. I mean, that's just crippling. I mean, he's their suitor. Well, I like Shea Weber. I got to watch Shea Weber as a minor leaguer when my family still lived in Wisconsin when they played for Milwaukee. That was a treat. I got to see Pekka Rinne as a minor leaguer as well.
Yeah, I like watching AHL hockey. I like minor league hockey. I watched the AHL All-Star game. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also known as Dubba's last AHL game, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we've made trips to Des Moines each of the last 2 years to catch the Iowa Wild too, and we'll probably find a weekend to catch a 2-2 down there.
Yeah, I'll have to
next year, so we'll have to see. It's a good time. So, but that's AHL. We're in the middle of the playoffs, so I guess the other series aren't set at the time of we're recording. But going in, the Islanders and the Capitals are playing Game 7 for the right to play the Rangers, and I'm glad the Rangers were able to take care of business this week over Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that was a quick series, too.
Even though they lost game 2. And it was a close series, actually, too, despite the fact that it was short. I mean, all the games were close, and there wasn't a lot of goals.
Yeah, the goal differential in our series was bigger than theirs.
Yeah.
So.
But, so the Rangers are my cup champion still, but I'm starting to worry about Montreal, who closed Ottawa out, despite the fact that the refs totally cheated Ottawa twice in Game 6.
I think that the team that comes out of the West is going to win it. I don't think that the East stacks up well in a playoff-style game. I don't think that the East has it.
We'll see. I mean, I like the Rangers, but I would have liked to have seen a little more, even though they did win it in 5 games. So, and I like them against either Washington or the Islanders in the next round for sure. And I think I certainly like Montreal over whoever comes out of Detroit and Tampa. I think Tampa would give them a better series, honestly. But
oh, really? I think Washington beats them. If the Islanders advance, I think the Rangers advance. But
yeah, but you think Washington knocks off New York?
Yeah, from the matchup standpoint, I do.
Okay.
So yeah, if you watched their games earlier this year, I watched a couple of them.
I really didn't see any of their games other than the ones against the Wild, and I watched a decent hunk of Game 6 on Saturday that the Islanders ended up winning.
Yeah, I think the what New York likes to do to you is stretch you out in the neutral zone, and Washington doesn't really fall for that. The style of defense they play, they play that box formation going back. They don't get stretched out, and that's the Rangers' whole game. So,
well, I think I'm still going to stick with the Rangers. I don't like betting against King Henrik, so he's stingy as ever.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see. We'll see that'll probably be an interesting series. And like I said, yeah, I think Montreal probably takes care of Detroit or Tampa. But I think Tampa would be more interesting because if they can find their offense again, it just imploded in this series after.
What did I tell you? Defense wins championships.
You were right on this one all the way, and they got better goaltending than I was expecting too. So.
Yeah, Mrazek's been good, and Howard's been good as well.
So, hats off to the Red Wings if they get through. But yeah, so it'll be an exciting next round. This is my favorite round. This is the round of 8 because it's just these are the best of the best here.
And there's usually the ability to watch every game is there in the round of 8, whereas in the round of 16 you got overlapping games and really you focus on your team, and then the round of 8 allows you to kind of get your mix in. So.
Saturday was such a great day to watch hockey, too. 4 games back to back.
SOTSO Hockey Nation, we present you with the gift of lots of hockey.
Yes. So whenever the second round gets started, whenever the Wild get going, it'll be all over the Tweety box, and we'll be live tweeting games as we can, because we like to do that, and it'll be very exciting.
Well, I got a big move this weekend, so I don't know how many games I'll be able to live tweet.
It all depends on when they go, right?
Unpacking boxes as they are playing. So,
well, congratulations on your move. So,
but I will definitely catch up with you as soon as I'm unpacked and settled in.
Great.
And we'll definitely record next weekend. And
yep, we'll figure out when the next show drops based on. If the Wild end up having to play on Monday or not. Otherwise, if they don't play on Monday, we'll probably stick with recording on Monday and dropping on Tuesday, like we've done. So, follow us on Twitter. It's SOTSO Hockey JJ for me, SOTSO Hockey Joe for Joe, and our producers Andy Carlson at Andy Carlson Show. You know him from the Andy Must Die podcast and the Purple for the Win podcast, which has a very big event this week. Thursday night is the NFL Draft, and Andy will be live streaming coverage from his podcast site starting at 6 p.m. on Thursday. So if the Wild don't play and you end up watching the NFL Draft, definitely give Andy a listen. It'll be a good time. So, Joe, you got anything you want to plug this week? Or?
No, I'm good to go.
All right, so for Joe Hayford, I'm Justin Jelnick. Thank you for listening to the State of Hockey podcast. We'll see you next week whenever it happens.
Thanks for listening to the State of the Hockey podcast. The music was created and produced by Deeb. To hear more of his tracks, visit soundcloud.com/Deeb.